Hello everyone, it is time to talk cross stitch with the Stitching Owl. I'd like to say welcome to all of the new subscribers and welcome back to those who've been with me for quite some time. I thank you all for visiting with me and hopefully stitching along as we chat about our favorite hobby, cross stitch. There is a true sense of community that builds within Flosstube, and I thank you for being part of this. Am I excited to be here today? Oh, absolutely I am. There's been an incredible amount of stitching over the last couple of weeks, and like the last time that we were together, my order is going to be dictated by the fact that I am taking part in Bringo. So it isn't the normal fully finished, and whips order. I'm going to be going through a calendar. I have certainly found that Bringo has been a great deal of fun. And I have also found that I have started a lot of ornaments this month. I thought when I made up my board that I had done it the easy way by putting in ornaments, not realizing how many starts that I had really put into the month. So I might choose to do this a little bit differently next time, but I have been able to keep up and I have had fun. So the Bringo is with the Magazine Monthly Cross Stitch Challenge group on Facebook. And it is a group that is open all year round for people to become part of. So if this is sounding interesting to you, feel free to hop on and take a peek at this particular group. Carolyn Zook and I believe her name is Robin Pickens are running this group, and they do a wonderful job. I am so pleased to say that 2 Send a Smiles have been received, and that I'm preparing another one that's going to actually hop on a plane and go over to England. So just before Christmas, Samantha, the Hannukah stitcher, received her Send a Smile with ornament, and on her recent video she expressed happiness with this particular video, and I am so appreciative of the support that she gave me for my stitching and my channel. We all love Samantha. She is a cheerful stitcher who is just a wonderful person to watch. I also sent a smile to the Peacock stitcher, Katie, and she has recently let me know that she received it, and she also did indeed smile. So I am really pleased that the card plus ornament is indeed doing what I wanted, causing a smile. Katie has her own Flosstube, and she is happily stitching on many projects and has joined Alison of Cross Stitch the Globe to keep Christmas alive all year with the X Stitch Xmas Sal. And of course, because of my enthusiasm for stitching ornaments year round, I will be joining them on this Sal. Cross Stitch the Globe is posting regular videos and extra videos, adding to almost weekly postings. Stephanie and Alison are truly amazing, and I thank them for their kind mentions and shout outs. They have done multiple for me in the last little while, and it is truly heartwarming. In support of X Stitch Xmas 365 Sal, I did fully finish my Bright by Lisa of Lost in Stitches. So this is a straightforward stitch. Lisa has excellent clear patterns. Now I will admit that I have replaced some of her stitches with beads because that is just what the owl does. And I am adding now my 2024 charm on these to mark which year that I've made these in. That's something that I've been a little bit remiss in the past about. So Lisa has a number of patterns in her Etsy shop, and I invite you to take a peek as we go forward and support our favorite Flosstubers. So I found this a great deal of fun to do. This has been stitched with sulky thread plus beads, and it is on 32 count dirty porcelain linen from Roxy Floss Co. Now I have to figure out where I'm putting things so that they don't get mixed in with the things I haven't shown yet. Okay, so let's talk Bringo. We last chatted on January the 7th when I had already completed that day's prompt, and I had 0 bingos. So let's go forward with our dates and see whether I get any bingos now. With how far we are through the month, it would be truly amazing if I had none, but I do remember that the Stitching Mama went a very long time, almost a record long time, with 0 bingos the last time. Okay, so January 8th, they called number 14, which was stitch something with the colors of your flag. Well, for me, that is red and white because I'm Canadian. So I had said I would be using the Rosewood Manor's 1 dozen Quakers, and I would simply do a Quaker in red and white. So it is now a fully finished ornament. So the white is the beads with just a few, I think those are Smyrna crosses in white, and then the rest is red. This is sulky thread. And then when I closed this up to put the back to the front, my back is straight red because it was red and white. I did a lot of beading along the edges so that it's definitely got the red and white in place, and I've got my 2024 at the bottom peak. So you can see that I'm actually intending these to be hung on, well, it can be a tree, but this is good all year round, but it's meant to be hung on point instead of this way. I happen to be somebody that likes to do things on point even when I'm quilting. So that was Rosewood Manor. So I'm just going to remind you that this is part of the Bake Me a Quaker Sal that is being hosted by EJ and Shelia. They are the Sunshine Stitchers, and that they have set up the Rosewood Manor, and I forgot to bring that pattern down. Sorry. The 1 dozen Quakers is not actually meant to be ornaments. It is a large piece, and I am the odd one making ornaments. Everybody else is doing the actual full cross stitch. They are running this as a 13-month sal, and it is not too late to join. They started it December 1 of 2023, and we still have 11 months left. I don't find it actually hard to get the Quakers done. I can do them in fairly short order, so I think that you could still join in. I ordered my pattern straight from Rosewood Manor because I found I could not get it on 1-2-3 Stitch or at my local L&S. But have faith, they got it to me very quickly, so you won't be out many days. You could go online right now. So that was January 8th, and on January 9th they called number 1, which was to stitch on your smallest whip. Now you could interpret that many ways. It could just be the smallest as in an ornament versus a head, or it could be small as in the size of your X's. And that's how I decided to do it. For me, my Au Fil de Nichoir by Jardin Prive is being stitched 1/1 on 28 count even weave panettone that was purchased with Roxy Floss Co. These are small X's for me, and so it fit this prompt very nicely. Now, I'm going to tell you that I did put Jardin Prive into the Bringo board multiple times. So on January 16th, the prompt was to stitch something that was related to music, and I said, well, birds sing, so I'm going to put Jardin Prive in there. And then box number 17, which came up on January 17th, was to stitch something that was something to do with classes at school. And I said, well, I took music in school, of course I did. Therefore, I can use my Jardin Prive again because birds sing and singing is music class. Now I happen to play the cello in music class, but there was also choir that was an optional credit. So when I show you my stitch, I'm also going to tell you that today the call was for something that reminds you of where you live, and I had put in the Jardin Prive again because, yes, you guessed it, I have birdhouses in my backyard, and I have definitely got a lot of birds. It's amazing how many different kinds of woodpeckers I get, but I also have a raft of squirrels and some cute little chipmunks that are vying for the seeds. Now, we do have one feeder that we try and set aside that is for birds only, but I'm not against seeing the antics of the squirrels and chipmunks as they look for those seeds. So because of this many calls on Jardin Prive January, I was able to get it done. So I'm not sure how this hyacinth here actually works in with the snowy day, but I'm sure that somewhere in the world a hyacinth is growing, even if it's the southern atmosphere. We have a snowflake on top of what I believe to be a woodpecker, and I think a little wind chime that's coming off of the birdhouse. I think this is absolutely adorable. This is being stitched with DMC 1 thread. And yes, this is on the Panettone 28. So I now have 4 months of birdhouses done that I can cut apart and make into ornaments, but I'm going to wait until I'm finished all of them and then make all of the ornaments match up, I believe. This is subject to change without notice though, because sometimes I do change my mind, but I am thrilled with how that has gone. Now, January the 10th, it was number 12, and the prompt was that it had a letter of your first or last name, and I decided that I would use my maiden name, which begins with SH, and that allowed me to use the Sharova Creations stained glass owl, and technically stained starts with an S as well, so we had S's all around. In my hometown, I still use my maiden name as that's how they know me. So, the last time we were together, we discovered that I had started using Pattern Keeper and was truly excited, and that I had actually, yes, managed to make it to a feather. So I wonder what we have managed this time. Let me consult my notes. Well, I'm stitching on this 1/1 with all the called for colors on charcoal Aida, and it's a 20 count, and I'm using the 400 by 400 pattern. Sharova Creations provides you with multiple sizes in case you really want to go big, or you might want to be a little smaller and use 300 by 300. I have now completed 53,016 stitches, which is 33.1%. I am almost exactly at 1/3 of the way. So I'm just a fraction off of 1/3 at 4 months of stitching. So I'm pretty pleased with that. And now let's see what it looks like. There we go. So you can see in here I got quite a few of the feathers going. Some of the feathers aren't blue in here. I also completed this leaf down here, and I have extended this. Now if we sneak up here, I filled in this, and right here, yes, next time I expect to have the feathers that are the horns of the great horned owl that this is poking into that spot. So I'm very pleased with how this is going. So the tummy of the bird will come here, but I am going to try and fill in this area and maybe get the cheek of the owl's face in before I go to the tummy. I do find it helpful to try to keep the side, the right side, going to a little bit of a completion as I work to my left. So I'm just trying to make sure that I set up for next things. My lap is going to get full of stitching. So my BAP, my big awesome art project, is going well. Now, January 11th, the prompt was to do something monochromatic. And for me, that is the Modern Folk Embroidery Under the Stars. I am using yellow variegated sulky thread. I almost forgot what it was. And I'm stitching on a 32 count Blue Moon Lagana. Now, the day that this came up, I don't know why, but it was a step forward, a step backwards constantly. So it seemed like about every third stitch I had to take out because I didn't quite get it placed correctly. So I didn't get as many stitches in that day as I would have liked. And indeed, because I was doing so many new starts for Bringo, again, it was the Modern Folk Embroidery that did not get quite as much done as I would have liked. However, I am pleased with how this motif filled out this month. So I had part of this last month, and then I continued in this month. And then if I come back, that is how this is looking. I still absolutely love this fabric for the background for something called Under the Stars. And the sulky thread continues to be a choice that I am thrilled by. The thread does not tangle very much at all, and I find it also doesn't become fuzzy as you work with it and get through your 12 to 16 inches of stitching. Now, just in case you forget, this is what that piece is going to look like. So you can see that I got to like here over here. So that means I've got this to pop in next. As a gentle reminder, this is also the one where I'm going to have to do some fiddling around because I don't have quite enough length to do this entire thing. They only had one cut of that fabric. excuse me, and I really, really wanted it, so I will have to fiddle later. Okay, so then we fold that one up on my lap. And January 12th, the prompt was something that is part of a series. So I had said all the way along that I was going to do a year of celebration in 2024 by Hands-On Design. Now we were already on the 12th, and I wasn't sure if I would be able to pop together the ornament like in one day because of how many other things that I was trying to do every day. And so I decided I would not start with January, I would start with February in the hopes that I would have it done to put up at my mother's. I have an ornament stand there, and I change out the ornament on a regular basis so that she has something new in her surroundings, but she doesn't have to store them. I just take back the one that I'm taking away and put in something new. So I have a gray-green 32 count linen that is a Roxy Flossco, but I can't find the label to tell you exactly whether this is, I can't even guess as to what they called this. They have such creative names there. So this is how far I've gotten with February. You can see the shape of the heart there, the arrows, little hearts, and Feb is in place. Now this is being sewn with DMC and 2 threads over 2. Now the rest of this large piece is available for the other months of the year of celebration. So they will come along at some point. I'm just not sure when. I am hoping it's this year. So that was January the 12th. I will say that they are a quick stitch. It is just that I'm trying to stitch on multiple pieces in a day. And if I just take a moment, people have actually commented on their own floss tubes about how prolific I am with my stitching. And I don't know that I get more X's in. It's just that when you're a musician, you learn that you've got so much time to practice, and you have to touch on multiple pieces in the same day in order, particularly when you're performing by memory, in order to have them stay current in your mind and in your hands. And so it is that I've transferred that to my stitching, and it feels just like home to me to say, well, I'm going to do 25 minutes on this piece and 20 minutes on this piece, because that's how I attacked the learning of my music. So I think it's just that I, like Laura of Stitching by the Shore, touch multiple things in the same day. And so it comes across as I'm stitching more than some people. I don't know that I truly am. January the 13th was stitch something that someone else chooses. So an inquiry went to my husband, and it ended up with him picking Jardin Prive. And I said, well, if you're picking Jardin Prive, pick a number between 1 and 10, because I already had 11 and 12 done. And he picked 9, and I was like, okay, you just picked the September bird of Jardin Prive. Okay, so that means I go back to what I had earlier. Let's see if I can find. What I did was I went to a different corner. Yes, I did. And I started. Now, you can get 120 stitches in and essentially just get the pole that the birdhouse sits on. So this is the beginning of September. It's not a huge beginning, but I just have a little bit farther to go on the piece of lumber that is the white post here, and then I'll be able to put in the top that is where the bird will be for September. So I actually am ahead on this sew along because I've got October, November, December, January completed and a start on September. Now I think I even have one more Jardin Prive on Bringo. So I might even start on February so that I've got that going as well. January 14th. Well, this was an interesting one. You were supposed to pick a pattern and then roll a dice, and whatever number that was, you were to stitch on that many motifs in the pattern. So I had picked the 12 Quakers again. And I just realized I forgot to bring one of them down. I will put a picture in of one of them here. It is a start with white sulky thread on candy apple red linen by Roxy Floss Co. It is not as far along. I got enough in that I could say that I had done the 4th. The other 3 I did finishes on, and you saw the first one, so I finished up my Quaker that I did of the red and white for Canadian flag, and I dropped one. I'm back. I also finished this one, which was actually the Quaker from December, but was one that I hadn't fully finished yet. And I made and finished this one, which is in the mauve, and this is variegated blue sulky. I really enjoy this. So the January 14th landed on a Sunday, and it landed on the 2nd Sunday of the month. This meant that Sandi of Stitching with Sandi was holding a Zoom for anybody that wanted to join her. So I did, and I had a great time. There was a lot of us there, and I just beaded the entire time, because you'll notice that I beaded around these stitches. It takes time. And I have to say, I didn't mind taking the time to do the beading at all because I was with friends. So thank you to Sandi for doing these Zooms. They are the 2nd and 4th Sunday of each month. For me, they start at 1 o'clock. She is out west, so they start at 10 o'clock where she is, and they go for 3 or 4 hours. If you would like some company on a Zoom, consult Stitching with Sandi video and use the information in the description box to reach out to Sandi, and she will happily give you the link. She has a permanent link, so we don't have to do a new one each time. It's wonderful. And January 16th was Stitch Your Favorite Holiday. Well, I picked Christmas and an ornament from the 2020 Christmas magazine. And I thought I had it here. It's the Ornaments magazine. I don't see it. It is probably in one of the piles. What I chose was Poinsettia and Pine Peacock by Kathleen Berlew. It's on page 33 and it's the year 2020. I have been collecting the different years of this, and then I purchased like 1995 to 2010 as a CD from the Amazon, so I would have like 14 years of these, so I've got lots of ornaments. Now, this particular design is the same designer as the Poinsettia Fairy that made its way to Sew Me Sarah as a Smile Before Christmas. Now, I have had a couple of moments, and this is a finish. So again, I have used some beads in the middle of those. The pine would be the pine needles. The poinsettia would be referring to how the shape of the feathers are. I think this is a lovely pattern. Now, I'm going to do it again sometime on a smaller count. This is 32 count dirty porcelain, and it is sulky thread. It feels a little big to me for, I mean, I suppose it could be an ornament, but I think I'm going to make this into a stand-up with a curved top. I want to try, and then just have a peacock sitting on top of my piano. So that is my Christmas. Now, I did not get this all done in one day. I have come back to it on a couple more days, but it is a quick stitch. And so that was the 15th, and then we had January 16 and 17, which I already covered with the earlier Jardin Prive, and that brings us to January 18th, and it was Stitch Something That Has a Mode of Transportation. Well, and then I look around. I did another start, and I just kept the 2020 Christmas Ornaments magazine close by, and I chose Ho Ho Home on page 79 that was designed by Nancy Greenberg of Pickle Barrel Designs. Now, I am not finished with this one. You can tell it's going to be a mobile home. We've got a little tree. Now, there's supposed to be another tree here, as if this is parked at a tree farm. I'm not going to do as many trees around it in the hopes that this will be just a cute little ornament. There will be a wreath on this door, and then I will do the rest of this particular piece. And yes, you guessed it, this particular piece of linen, the dirty porcelain, stayed out for all my ornaments, and I kept using my sulky threads. Okay, that was January 18th, and January 19th was to stitch something by your favorite designer. Well, all across the board, we're always saying, I can't pick one. I have like 100 favorite designers, and it's true. I will say that I stitch a fair amount of Waxing Moon, and earlier in the month, I had started a Winter Little, the owl, and I'd left it partially finished so that I could come back to it when this number was called. So to remind you, this is what the Winter Littles look like. So it's a good deal. For about $14, you get 6 patterns. That is lovely. They're all adorable, and they're all around 50 by 50 stitches, so they don't take a great deal of time. Now, this is where I am right now. I have made a pouch, and I can stick this teeny tiny size of hoop and the makings for these littles into my purse. And in that way, if I have a day like I did on Friday, where I was waiting for someone to have an x-ray, I can just pull this out and stitch. So I got a chunk of this owl done in a waiting room. So I don't really stitch while I'm in the car traveling. That's not something I can do. But I'm certainly willing to carry these around so that anytime I'm waiting, I can feel like I'm a good waiter because it doesn't matter, I'm doing something. So that actually, this is 32 count Stormy Night Lugana. And this actually is 2 threads of DMC. They are almost the called for colors. I don't like taking things from patterns that are in full swing that are using called for colors, so I just get close and then I'm happy. And January 20th was a stitch inspired by a pet. Well, every now and again you hear my pet, the little dog, but I'm also grandma to 2 grand cats. So I hunted through the 2020 Christmas Ornaments magazine, and yes, you got it, I started yet another one. It's quite amazing. And I actually thought there was a cute cat ornament. Let's see if I can find him. And this one is called Kitty's First Christmas by Chrissy Callahan of Turtle Bunny Designs. And this is where I got to. So this will end up going farther out to being a full present. And then there's going to be a big bow here that the cat is peeking out from under the lid of the present, and the present has a bow on it. So I admit that I stitched that because next Christmas I'll be able to put it on a gift for one of my children that do have those grand cats. One of the cats, his name is Duncan, as in Dunkin' Donuts, and the other cat is named Miss Cat. So I do have the privilege of having felines and canines in my life. So that brings us to today, and today's call was again something that I had put Jardin Prive on because it was to be something that reminded you of home. My home has bird houses, house birds, bird houses. So therefore, I just finished that one off. Now, this is my first time doing Bringo, and it is my first month doing posts on Facebook. So I'm not sure whether I have completed my album in the correct way or not, but I have posted every day, and I'm happy with that, even if I'm not in line to get any prizes. This has been fun for me. I will definitely do it again. I just think I won't set myself up to have quite as many starts. It's a little unusual for me because I like to finish immediately when I start if they're small, and I have a whole bunch of smalls now that are only part of the way done. So my plan for 2024 was to stitch 24 ornaments by 24 different designers. At the present time, I already have 8 different designers covered in 1 month. So I don't think there's going to be any problems getting to 24, and indeed, it will be interesting to see how high my number does go. I'm actually quite excited, and I've got my eye on some purchases of ornaments in Etsy. I just haven't needed to do any of those purchases yet because I've been able to use the patterns that I've had here. I want to take a moment to include a couple of pictures of an ornament that I completed this month and would have been shown earlier, but I've already taken it to my mother's for on her ornament stand. It was a Christmas star that I did in the first week of Bringo, and here it is. So you'll notice that I happily did a lot of beading And my mother has commented that it is one of my prettiest ones. So I think she's beginning to like the beads too. I want to insert one other finish at this point. I have commented a couple of times about how excited I am that my daughter is starting to stitch, and we'll have days where she'll call and just say, "Can I come over and stitch with you?" And I'm so pleased when she does that. So a couple of weeks, oh no, just 1 week ago today, she came over and she had said that she had finished all of the stitching in 2 patterns and was now going to need to do some back stitching. And so she sat down, and for a few minutes she was a little bit frustrated, and I thought she might be ready to set aside the project, but then I noticed that she just tucked up her feet and she did all of the back stitching in one afternoon. I am just so pleased with her. So that day she was working on Kitten in a Cup. This is designed by Cute Patterns by Maria. And that's the wrong side. Here's the side. I mean, look at that. For her first stitch that wasn't in a beginner kit, I think she did a marvelous job. So I want to make that into a stand-up for her. She happens to like to paint as well, and so she's not got an awful lot of wall space left. So I want to make it into a little stand-up and surprise her in the next couple of weeks. If I'm lucky, I'll do it right before the next Flosstube so that I can show it to you before I show it to her. That would be lovely. So she used DMC floss, all the called for, 2 strands over 1 on 14 count Aida that was just pink Aida that had been purchased on Amazon. She stitches in hand and finds that the stiffness of that material doesn't bother her. The second piece that she's worked on, I did take her to Stitch It Central, and she chose a softer Aida cloth, and she's also had fun working on it. So now, let's take a moment for Caroline and Evertote. Last video, I announced that on Christmas Eve, I had made it to 500 subscribers on Christmas Eve. I don't think that sentence came out right. Last video, I announced that I had made it to 500 subscribers on Christmas Eve, and that I had reached out to Caroline at Evertote and asked if she would work with me to make it so that we could have a digital prize, a gift certificate of 50 Canadian dollars for one of my subscribers. And she was all in. And so I have to say Caroline is just absolutely wonderful to work with. And as I said, the last time I believe she actually offered to just give this. Now I do want to support her, so I'm actually wanting to give her the money for this. She's a small business, and I think it's important that we support our LNSs. But they are absolutely wonderful. So what I asked was for each of you to leave a comment saying what was your first stitch in 2024. And I got 28 of you who made comments as to what your first stitch was. I had other comments where there was nothing said about a stitch, and because of that, that was going to mean that you weren't in for this particular prize. But I was absolutely thrilled to see how many different pieces were being stitched on. I don't think that anybody overlapped. Some of them were in the same pattern area by the same designer. So now I need to read this. So we had, out of 28, we had a random number picker, and it chose the number 17. I started number 1 from the first comment all the way through to what was received even this weekend. I was still receiving comments. So the random picker was 17, and that was the subscriber Mirpax VV, and I'll just put it right here. They stated, I've been stitching on Virgin of the Lilies, which is a golden kite project, every day this year. So if you're Mirpax VV, I need you to use the Stitching Owl email address to contact me with your email address and your actual name instead of your YouTube name, so that I can let Caroline know what these are, and then she will reach out to you with your digital prize. Now, just last week, Evertote put updates on their website with a whole lot of new things, floss patterns, project bags, and of course in February there is the sign up starting for the Evertote Advent 2024, which is done in conjunction with Jacob of Modern Folk Embroidery. So there's so much lovely things for you to actually think about using this $50 on. And for everyone else, thank you for participating. When I get to 1,000, I will do this again. And in order to make it so that everybody in the world can participate and get this prize, I will be continuing to use the digital gift certificate situation. Okay, I want to take a moment to let you know that I've been keeping my stitching projects organized by using the planner of Lori Sykes, who has a Flosstube My Crazy Life. This planner, it's awesome for staying open because it's got this spiral binding. I know you pay just a little bit more to have the spiral binding, but to my mind, it is worth it. You can write in this with ease. This is very specific to cross stitch. It has the spots for your finishes, for retreats, for goals. It's got patterns that are throughout the entire book that are actual cross stitch patterns by designers that you know. So it is a lovely book. I do know that Caroline has commented that she is sold out and made the mistake of selling the last one without grabbing one herself. And she deeply regrets that. I'm sure that if you watched My Crazy Life and contacted Lori, she would be able to let you know how a purchase could be made, even though we can't get one at Evertote now. Thank you also to everybody who also commented. I asked you something. So in conjunction with something else that I'm doing, one of my other whips is Winter Cardinals, and it is by Instant Cross Stitch on Etsy. And this is what it looks like, minus these stripes that were because my ink was going crazy before Christmas. I am truly excited. I made fabulous progress, and I have a spot where I actually have top to bottom. I don't have quite side to side, but I have very good progress. Look at this. So you can see that this globe, I've got the bottom started here. This is the background. The background is ready to come in all the way to the side here, almost to the side here. I haven't started on page 6 yet, but it is very, very pretty. It has indeed been a lot of fun. Yes, there's confetti stitching. Yes, I've suggested that Pattern Keeper would make the confetti stitching go faster. But as a totality, it's amazing when you think about all the different variations of white that we can get in DMC and how the designer has used it to make this sense of dimension. It's like this bird has sunk into this snowdrift just that little bit. It is a really well done pattern. Now, in conjunction with this, I said that the Etsy designers are listening, or at least this one is. And I asked you, how do you like your floss ordered on your patterns? And I can actually say that across the board, everybody wants their DMC in numerical order. They do think it's lovely to have the amount of stitches in brackets after, but that the amount of stitches not be the thing that creates the order for the flosses. This is so that when the stitchers are grabbing the flosses from their stash or from an L&S, they can actually just pick them up in order because that's the way they are there. And they said that if you start into the overdyes, alphabetical order is definitely the way to go. I did have one stitcher comment particularly that if it was overdyes, it truly is a huge benefit if designers let us know when more than one skein is required so that we can pick it up and have it as part of the same die lot. I felt that was a point that was well made. So that is, thank you to everybody for taking part in that. And I felt that like everybody that left a comment pretty much was wanting to buy in on that particular element. Okay. Was there any other whips? Yes, there was. I'm still on whips. Well, and the reason that I'm still on whips is the Prairie Birds by Prairie Schooler. We can see that there is 10 little bird patterns on this pamphlet, and that this is the one where I started all 10 on New Year's Eve. In the last 2 weeks, I completed 3 of these. And I'm going to make these into little pillow ornaments. But I wanted to take a moment to explain how I do the little pillow ornaments. Huffy, you're just going to have to walk fast. My husband, the runner. So I'm just reaching for my stuff. This is the Robin's pillow ornament. Now, I am not stuffing these super full to make these so puffy that it makes it so you can't really see the entire design all at once. I'm making a flatter pillow. So the question is, how is it that I'm making these different? It's not the front, it's the back. When I turn this over, you go, what's different about the back? I have made an envelope back. I do not cut into my cotton and jeopardize something there. I actually, so what I've done, so the first thing that I do when I've got something like this is I use ultralight interfacing on the back. And it is a fusible, so I iron it on. Now it turned out that when I measured this and added a 1/2 inch all the way around, that this was 3 3/4 inches square. I use 1/4 inch seams because I'm a quilter, and that's just what quilters do. So I cut 2 pieces of background 3 3/4 inches. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to fold under about 1 inch on both sides of this. And I do that so that when I'm making my sandwich, I put pretty sides together. So you can see I've got the pretty side. And then when I do this pretty side, in the center, you've got an overlap, but you've got an overlap that will have an opening and no raw edges, no threads that can sneak out. And then I still sew all the way around the outside, and I do a tiny clip of each corner, and then I turn it right side out. And this is one that is unstuffed. So you can see I've got plenty of room to get my stuffing in. And indeed, I wait until it's like this to even put my hanger on, because I can reach my needle up inside. If I was using ribbon, I would actually sew the ribbon on when I was making my seam all the way around the square. And I think I like having the 2024 put on the bottom rather. When I put it up here on this, it doesn't seem to work out nearly as well. It doesn't always lay so that it's straight. So I think I might even take that one out. Now you're asking, like, well, what do you do? So I'm going to sew this closed, but you can use Aleene's tacky glue and not have to hand sew anything. So that is actually how I do mine, and you can see that I have 1, 2, and 3. Those are the ones that I have done so far. I started a little bit with green so that the next one up has more leaves than it had before. But other than that, the next row is pretty much mostly, oh, there might be one more leaf over here in green as well. It's mostly the way it was the last time you saw it. So I will be working on the next 3. Okay. Let's try not to lose anything. It just dawned on me that I never showed you my Bringo board. This is my Bringo board so far, and you can see that I've actually got 4 bingos. This line, this line, this line, and this line, and indeed, I'm going for a blackout. I was able to actually color in today's already because I've already finished it. So, Amy of Renewing Stitching is also doing the Prairie Birds. If you'd like to see the Cardinals example already finished, she's got it done. And indeed, she restitched 1 or 2 of the Cardinals a little smaller and is making it into a trading card for Laura Stitching by the Shore's Trading Card Challenge. Now, if you're wanting to be part of that challenge, we need to get stitching. We're supposed to have them in the mail to her on February 1st, and that is coming quickly. So those are 2.5 by 3.5 inch examples, and the theme is winter this time. Amy has also commented that on February 24th, she and Contented Needleworker Kim are starting a songbird from the series by Cottage Garden Samplings. Now in the spring, ahead of me starting my Flosstube, I actually did one of those, and this is the one I've already got completed. This is Joy. I will admit that there was supposed to be a little house in here. I took out the house and just created more leaf. This was a fun stitch, and even though it's of a reasonable size, this is 32 count Lugana in a mint green. This was DMC, and I used all of the called for colors. It didn't take me very long to do. Having said that, this was the period of time that I was still a monogamous stitcher, and as such, it's going to take me longer than 2 weeks now because I don't stitch on one thing at a time anymore. So they are doing, with that stitch along, I did a peek, and indeed I have, let me see, I have the Faith Bluebird pattern. I have the Simplicity, I think that's a Baltimore Oriole pattern. And while this isn't a songbirds pattern, it is still birds from Cottage Garden Samplings. This is the Love is in the Air. It was from a different year, A Time for All Seasons series. So I have things that I can stitch along with them and have fun. So I will actually aim to do something with them. Samantha and her friend Erika of Fibers and Floss Canada are starting a dragon sew-along. They are doing a Teresa Wentzler dragon, which is a major undertaking, and I'm sure will take them each at least a year and might be longer. There is much blending of threads. Literally, a picture that is definitely smaller than a Haid has as many colors as a Haid when it's Teresa Wentzler. They have invited people to join them in their Year of the Dragon Sal and said, you don't have to stitch that particular dragon by Teresa Wentzler, just find a dragon and enjoy. So I'm going to see if I can manage that one too. I just have to be careful not to get too many stitches going at once. I will be starting my Una Owl on March the 7th with Elizabeth Savory of Savory Sewing. She's got a Flosstube called Savory Sewings. And I already have the Roxy Flossco floss to go with this. I can't wait to be able to start this, but I'm happy to do it to help her celebrate her birthday. The Colorado Cross Stitcher is having her winter cross stitch camp. Her theme this time is Stitch Something with an Animal in the month of February. For further details, please consult her Flosstube number 47. Thank you to the Blue Coast Stitcher for the lovely shout out. She has an exciting year ahead for stitching, where she's finally gotten herself settled into her new house and is giving herself a little bit of breathing time in order to explore her craft room. So I can't wait to see what she does this year. If you have a moment and would like a new Flosstuber to check out, I'm going to encourage you to try the Dutch Stitcher. She is an exquisite stitcher. I love listening to her musical voice. Her lilacs and her Van Gogh Small are exquisite. Definitely worth a little bit of your time. Lovely to stitch to her. And now it's time for a moment for music. Today you'll be hearing Morning Bells by 19th century Friedrich Bergmüller. He is best known for his 3 books of children's pieces. They are wonderful pieces that, even though they were written in the 1800s, children in the 21st century still love to play them. That is truly an accomplishment. So here is my version of the Morning Bell. And now it is time for us to part again. Thank you for giving me something very precious, your time. I will see you again in 2 weeks. I hope that you have had needle and floss in your hand and that you can make yourself happy. Bye-bye for now.